Whatever you do, stay away from this plant. Virginians are being warned to keep their eyes out for the giant hogweed plant, which can cause third-degree burns and even blindness. 30 of the deadly plants were recently found at a site in Clarke County, according to Virginia Tech's Massey Herbarium, although they've been known to grow in other states. Giant hogweeds are huge and invasive. They grow up to 14 feet and have sharply lobed leaves, umbrella-shaped white flowers, and hollow, hairy, purple splotched stems. Their sap contains toxins called furanocoumarins, which can make human skin hypersensitive to sunlight. If not washed and covered immediately, the skin can develop itchy, burning blisters with scarring, discoloration, and sometimes persistent sun sensitivity that can last years. The sap has also been known to cause temporary or permanent blindness when it comes in contact with the eyes. Experts strongly advise against taking out the plant with a weed whacker since the sap could splatter and spread. Physical removal or the use of herbicides is a much more effective, not to mention safer option, or just call it in and leave it to the pros. Here are other things to steer clear of.
Death by caffeine. A South Carolina teen is dead after a combo of caffeinated drinks triggered a fatal heart issue in his normally healthy heart. Davis Allen Kripe collapsed in class on April 26th and died just an hour later. The 16-year-old had consumed multiple caffeinated drinks that day and died from a caffeine-induced cardiac event, otherwise known as abnormal heart rhythm. A healthy adult can safely ingest as much as 400 milligrams of caffeine daily, equivalent to either 4 cups of coffee, 10 colas, or 3 to 5 energy drinks. But for teens, the recommended daily intake is only 100 milligrams. That's a cup of coffee, 3 colas, or 1 energy drink. Caffeine prompts the release of the stress hormone norepinephrine, too much of which can cause rapid or irregular heart rate. Not enough blood is pumped into the body as a result, thus damaging or shutting down the brain and other organs. People who have died from caffeine overdoses also experienced seizures, with some reportedly choking on their own vomit. Caffeine does have certain benefits, and the vast majority consume it with no negative effects. But experts warn it should be taken in moderation, especially for kids and adolescents.
Asian giant hornets are one of the world's most venomous insects and should not be messed with. With a strong El Nino in 2016, parts of Asia may have more to worry about as the extreme heat may bring about more aggressive attacks from the world's biggest hornet. Asian giant hornets, native to East and Southeast Asia, are about 4 to 5 centimeters long, with roughly 1 centimeter long stingers. The Vespa mandarinia tend to target bees, but have been known to attack humans when disturbed. They're able to travel up to 100 kilometers at speeds of 40 kilometers an hour, much faster than a person can run. In 2013, 42 people died and more than 1,000 others were injured after a vicious spate of attacks by Asian giant hornets in China's Shanxi province. Hornets sting their victims repeatedly, releasing a potent venom containing 8 different chemicals that attract more hornets to the victim, potentially causing anaphylactic shock and renal failure. Experts advise that the best way to be safe is to steer clear of any nests, which are often located underground or in tree stumps.
5-year-old girl temporarily paralyzed from tick bite. A 5-year-old Mississippi girl was temporarily paralyzed after getting a tick bite during one of her t-ball games. Kaylin Kirk was fine after her game, but when she woke up the next morning, she couldn't walk. When her mother, Jessica Griffin, who posted about the incident over Facebook, started combing through Kaylin's hair, she noticed a tick in her scalp. After consulting with her friend, who is currently deployed in Iraq, she put the tick in a Ziploc bag and rushed Kaylin to the hospital. At the University of Mississippi Medical Center, Kaylin had some blood work and a CT scan. Doctors later diagnosed her with tick paralysis. Tick paralysis is caused when female ticks bite someone on the scalp or at the nape of the neck and release a toxin from their saliva. Tick paralysis is normally very sudden, taking place within 24 hours. To treat tick paralysis, the tick only needs to be removed. People usually recover within a day. According to her mom, Kaylin was a champ through the whole ordeal. She even walked out of the hospital by herself later that evening. Good Samaritan dies trying to save boaters. A man was killed Saturday in a fatal boating accident after a sinkhole created a dangerous whirlpool on the Spring River in Arkansas. Authorities identified the victim as Donald Wright, who worked as the executive director of a halfway house in Searcy. According to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, a sinkhole opened around noon below the falls near Dead Man's Curve, resulting in a deadly whirlpool. While paddling in the area, Wright's residents were thrown off their kayak after it became caught in the whirlpool. Wright tried to help, but his own kayak capsized and got sucked into the whirlpool. The 64-year-old reportedly drowned within minutes. A spokesman from the commission says one of the paddlers was able to swim to shore, while the other was injured and had to be flown out. Officials have installed buoys around the sinkhole and warned visitors not to go into the area. Engineers are set to assess the region within the week amid worries that another sinkhole could open up in the area. The dangers of blowfish toxin. Japanese authorities sent out an emergency warning in a coastal city on Monday after several packages of fugu, or blowfish, were mistakenly sold to unsuspecting customers. A grocery store in Gamagori accidentally sold 5 packages of assorted blowfish meat with its poisonous parts still intact. 3 of the packages have been recovered, but 2 have yet to be found. The liver and internal organs of blowfish are known to contain tetrodotoxin, a lethal neurotoxin 1,200 times more potent than cyanide. One fish has enough poison to kill 30 adult humans. Tetrodotoxin targets motor neurons, causing numbness in the lips, loss of muscle control, and organ paralysis. A fatal dose could lead to respiratory arrest and death. There is no known antidote. Despite the danger, blowfish meat is a delicacy in Japan, but because of the high risk, only rigorously trained and licensed chefs are allowed to prepare the deadly fish. There are still those who die from blowfish poisoning, though these are mostly amateur cooks or sports fishermen who try to cut up the fish themselves. How the flu can knock you out for good. The flu is slamming the U.S. this season and has already claimed the lives of at least 30 children. Although most people do not die from the flu, young children and people with other illnesses such as heart disease, lung disease, and diabetes are at elevated risks. Adults can succumb to the flu in 3 ways: pneumonia, sepsis, and heart attack. A person who is infected with influenza can develop pneumonia, an infection where the air sacs of the lungs fill with fluid or pus. With sepsis, the flu triggers the release of chemicals into the blood to fight infection, which in turn causes inflammation throughout the body. That inflammation can then trigger multiple organ system failure. The flu can also lead to heart attacks. A new study found that a person is 6 times more likely to have a heart attack during the week after being diagnosed with the flu compared to the year before or after the infection. Experts are urging people to go out and get flu shots even though they still may get the flu. Some protection is still better than nothing.